Hey, Orion here. I've been podcasting for over 4 years now. 4 years. I started a bit unsure and insecure, but I am so much better and I'm a different woman today. I learned and grew so much. I grew as a person and I grew as a podcast host. And I had the privilege of talking with incredible people I never even imagined I can even reach. But regardless of how famous or not famous my guest is, sometimes you have a special conversation. One that is so stellar, you remember it even 4 years later. Welcome to Stellar Conversations. This is one of my absolute favorite episodes, and it will light up your day.
Welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. Get inspired and live out loud. From love, freedom, and success to having it all. Here's your host, coach, speaker, and shining star, Orion.
Roger, you're looking good.
Hi, and welcome to Stellar Life. Today, I have with me Loren Slocum Lahav, CEO and founder of True. She's a unique international personal development speaker, seminar leader, coach, author, philanthropist, entrepreneur, wife, and mother. Loren is the founder and chief executive officer and president of La Bella International, an organization inspired to help women stay true to who they are. She's committed to helping women realize their true gifts. She has a charity called Elevate that gives baskets to the homeless and does a lot of wonderful things for people. She's active with Tony Robbins' organization and was personally chosen to lead Life Mastery. Loren is the author of Life Tune-Ups, voted by People magazine as one of the top 3 books of 2010. She's the author of Greatest Love, co-author of Chicken Soup for the Soul, Time to Thrive, and her new book she's working on is called Courage to Raise a Gentleman. Hi, Loren, and welcome.
Hi, Orion. How are you? I love the title of your show. I love it. Stellar Life. Love it.
Thank you very much.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean, your life is pretty stellar. I'm sure it wasn't like that always. So so how did you get to be this alpha, extremely awesome super achiever?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I think that I've always, I saw my parents work very hard to make sure that my kids, that we as kids had a stellar life. It wasn't easy growing up. I mean, I'm from a small town in North Carolina. My dad worked every day. He was an optometrist. We lived way, 45 minutes away from everything. My parents did whatever that they could to truly, make sure I love the word stellar, had a stellar life. Mm-hmm. And they would, when we would be driving home from school, they would say things like, we're going on an adventure. We were just driving.
Yeah.
So it was always looking for adventure and everything. And my parents, I guess, were really good at reframing things without knowing that that's what they were doing. And I think for me, it was always about, how can I add more value? Mm-hmm. My parents were always big time philanthropists, always giving back. We work with the blind growing up, selling light bulbs for the blind and,
wow.
Selling brooms, whatever we could do. So I think for me, if, you think about what's happened, I think that my parents laid a really great foundation, but you're right. It hasn't always been easy. But I don't think easier is always better. But I'd say foundationally, it was my parents who set that belief in my head that, that we're blessed,
Mm-hmm. And do you still see everything as an adventure?
Do I still see everything as an adventure? Yes, I actually do. It's funny because I catch myself saying things to my kids like this is an adventure. And, some adventures are scary. Some adventures are, some adventures are scary. Some adventures are fun. Some adventures are, pure relaxation. But I think that I have kind of tried to look at it in that way as, it's an adventure and that we're going to enjoy it, through the good times, the bad times, the hard times, that we know that, what goes up must come down. What goes down must come up. Mm-hmm. So I think that I always knew that I had to keep looking forward. One of my favorite lines that I remember from my first Tony Robbins, it was actually a free event that Tony used to do about 25 years ago. And he said, don't let your rear view mirror be your guide.
Mm.
And I've always looked at that there's some wonderful things about my past, but there's some things as I can't use that as moving forward that's going to get me to where I really, am committed to going. So, yeah.
Can you share one of your scariest adventures and how did you get over it?
Scariest adventure. Well, obviously I was married for 18 years. And I, realized that our lives were going parallel. And on my 45th birthday, I was at the Wailing Wall in Israel, and I decided I needed to make a shift. And my kids were very young. And that was obviously, it was comfortable. Mm-hmm. And I think comfortable, though, is probably the most dangerous place to be lots of times because we're not really growing. So I knew that something had to shift, not just for me, but for him as well, for both of us to grow. And, it was a pretty expensive lifestyle that I had, I would say, for my kids because they were all 3 in private school. I was traveling. And, I think things always work out. But, I look at it now, I'm like, geez, it was really less than, 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I was freaking had more month at the end of the money and was, pawning my stuff and, but I knew that I was going to be able to get through it. I knew what made me, successful, and some things was the same thing. And I think it's really that hunger. Mm-hmm. And I look now and I just look, I'm like, oh my God, it's so unbelievable, my life. Wow. Truly, Wow. Today I went shopping with my son at we were at a Whole Foods. It's called Sprouts. And I'm like, get whatever you want, get what you need. And, here we are. And, and I remember just a couple of years ago going, oh my God, I couldn't really only spend, a certain amount of money. I couldn't say that all the time. I'd go to the grocery store without them because I didn't want them to pick up things that maybe I couldn't, handle. Wow. So, it's interesting. And you know what, from the outside, people would look and go, I was doing well, I was doing well, but it still wasn't enough to keep what I needed to for my kids, where they were with their activities. My son plays lacrosse. It's not a cheap sport. And so I think that all of those things just gave me that hunger to create a stellar life. Why wait? We're healthy, we're happy, we're intelligent, we're hungry, so I knew that it was in me. I just need to access more of it.
Right.
So.
When I met you, I think it was 5 years ago. When I met you personally, it was when I crewed Unleash the Power Within. Yeah. And you were helping, leading the volunteers. And the volunteers for that event is 400 people?
Yeah, about 400. Yep, about 400.
Wow.
Yep. So I pretty much 26 years ago when we were doing UPWs, I started looking around and said, what needs to be filled? And I went to Tony and I'm like, look, let's create a community within a community. Because I do believe that for all of us, it's the community that helps us achieve anything that we want and everything in our life. And I think sometimes we don't call on the tribe to really say, hey, you know what, here's what I'm up to. Here's what I would like to create for my life. And so I think that, it's beautiful to see how it's grown from literally 35 people. We were dragging people to want to crew events. Mm-hmm. And now, there's a waiting list.
Wow.
So that's been my baby for 26 years.
How do you build a community like that?
I think that you add more value, I think the biggest thing was that people were coming there, all of you guys, you were graduates of the program and how much you got out of it. And we always know that we'll do more for others than we'll do for ourselves. So being able that people wanted to come back and serve, but adding value, helping people find their gifts. I can't tell you how many people, just to name a few, a lady named Ann McAdoo, her and her mom were just amazing crew members. And when we were launching Life Mastery, they said we could have 3 crew members come over. So we went to Fiji and Ann and her mom came and a guy and John Burgess, who's a trainer now. And John was doing the music and she was transcribing in the back of the room. And Tony walked in the room and he goes, I need her. I'm like, Tony, we've got 3 crew members. He goes, but I need her. I'm working on my book. And I'm like, I need her. I need her to run the event. And he goes, you'll be fine. And next thing I know, Anne's gone for 2 weeks, and she went to go work with Tony on his book. And now Anne, what she does is help people write books.
Wow.
So I love to help people find their gifts like that. That fires me up. I'm working with a girl now who she's a health coach, but I'm like, you're not just a health coach. She has this amazing dog that she does everything with. And, the more I dug into her story, I found out that, she's cooked every day since she was 18.
Wow.
And she's every day. And she's an attorney, and she was, her story is unbelievable. And now she's putting together this awesome book for women and dogs, and just what you can do with your dog. Now she's 30, 36, 37 years old. So I love to help people kind of unleash their magic that's within them.
Wow.
And that's what the crew really did for me. I'd look at somebody and I'd be like, I'd like to, for their positions, I would go, where would I like to see that person? Would I like to see that person like greeting somebody, or, maybe that person needs to be behind the scenes, whatever that it is. And I think the power of questions, I think lots of times people don't get curious enough. And for me, the crew was about this opportunity just to help people find the best story, honestly, is Gary King, who he came to an event about 26 years ago, and we used to give out 2 pieces of fruit. And I say, Gary, I need you to, guard the fruit, so the 2,000 people get 2 pieces of fruit. And then the next thing I knew, Gary had people making like little water guns, guarding the fruit. And then they made like fruit guard, like name tags. And so then everybody wanted to be on the freaking fruit guard team, So like I said, you make it fun for people. You make them feel important. How many times in life do we just don't feel important?
Right.
That's what I'd love to see more of in the world.
How do you make somebody feel important?
I think you have to understand what's important to them. I think that a lot of people, they don't need much. I think the love language, the five love languages, 5 love languages,
5, I think,
is so
4?
important.
5?
5. So words of affirmation, deeds of service, physical touch, quality time, and gifts, right? So those are the thing. I would say really, really listening and understanding what someone's love language is so, so, so important. And I've prided myself on, making sure that I did that, making sure people knew how important they were, and that they did, that they were the difference that made the difference. I'm looking right now at a painting. A lady came up, and we didn't have a lot of crew members back then. And this was 26 years ago. Let me look at the painting. Yeah. 26 years ago. And, this lady came, we didn't have trainers, really like a lot of trainers at the event. And this lady came running out of the room, and I was kind of new to the environment, and I just listened to her. She came running out of the room during one of the processes, and I just sat and talked to her, asked her name, asked her, who she was there with and what she was expecting, I just cared about her. And then she asks me, she goes, what's your favorite animal? And I said, a rhinoceros. And she goes, what's your favorite color? And I go, purple and like bright blues. And at the time I was working full time at Robbins, and about 3 weeks later, this big box arrives, and it was a painting of this rhinoceros and purples and blues.
Wow.
And, she goes, you were so helpful. I just wanted you to, have this painting. And I looked at her name, and it's a lady named Betsy Fowler. And her husband is Jim Fowler from Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. And,
Wow.
That painting went on. They made I have the original, but, they went on and they sold prints of the painting. And I'm like, you know what? All because you just take a couple minutes to actually, give a shit about people. I didn't have to run after her. I just, I wanted to. I felt it was my responsibility. And, to have 400 people there that are just servant leaders, that's amazing. They take the time away and the pay for their own rooms and pay for their own food and get to flights. I mean, those are the kind of people I want to be around, people that just, really are there to serve. So
How did you start with Tony Robbins, and how did you start leading Life Mastery?
Well, it's a very interesting story. I was in college at the University of Georgia, and my boyfriend and I at the time, we were walking back from a football game, and he saw this book, said Unlimited Power. He goes, "Oh my gosh, that's so you." And I'm like, whatever. And we went into the bookstore, and he flips the book. So he goes, "One day we're going to go to one of these Tony Robbins seminars." I'm like, "No, we are not." And he flips the book over, and on the back at the time, it was a picture of Tony in a full 3-piece suit. He was walking on the coals. And here I am. I'm from North Carolina. I'm like conservative, from North Carolina. I am not walking on coals. I'm not going to some freaking Tony Robbins seminar. And so I took the book. I graduated from college. I was a journalism major and was offered a really great job in Atlanta, but I'm kind of a rebel. So I moved to Colorado to waitress. And my friend, I waited on tables and just took a little bit of a break because I'd worked really hard in school. And one day this group of men came in, and I wanted to get into sports marketing, and it turned out it was the world of sports. It was sitting at my table, and this man said, "My name's Joe Harper. I'm general manager of the Del Mar Thoroughbred Club. I want you to come work for me." And I look at him and I'm like, "Where is Del Mar?" And he goes, "You're perfect." And I didn't know who anybody was. I was waiting on a lot of celebrities, at the table at the restaurant I worked at, but I didn't know who they were. At one of my tables, this guy, everybody kept looking at this guy, and I'm like, "I'm so sorry they keep looking at you. They think you're Omar Sharif." He goes, "I am Omar Sharif." And so I didn't really care. I just treated everybody the same. And my manager, the guy goes, "When can you move?" And I go, "I don't know." And my manager goes, "She can move next week." And he had somebody drive down to California with me. And I ended up in a job that I'm very grateful for, but I thought that it was like the job. And then I got there and I felt like a job. And on Thanksgiving 1989, somebody invited me to go deliver food to the homeless on Thanksgiving. And like I said, I have very strong contribution, foundation and beliefs for myself. And I ended up at this castle in Del Mar, and everybody had a big house in Del Mar. And this one just was in the shape of a castle. And I'm walking through the turret of the castle, and I see this guy in the president, this guy in Nelson Mandela, this guy in Michael Jackson. And then I get to this shadow box of a book, and I'm like, "Oh my God, that's that book I have." And, Tony was only 29 at the time, and Tony walks up to me and he goes, "Do you have, you read my book?" And I'm like, "Well, I have your book, but I haven't read it." And I'm like, "Oh my God, that wasn't very nice to say to this guy." And he invited me to stay for dinner at Thanksgiving. There were about 25 people there. And we were sitting around the room, my friend and his cute friend that was with him and all these other people. And the cute guy goes, "What's she doing here?" I'm like, "I don't know. That big guy invited me here." He goes, "This is Tony Robbins' company." I'm like, "Okay, dudes, calm down." And Tony asked each person to stand up and say what they were most grateful for. And I stood up and I said, "Well, I'm grateful I met a group of people finally like this. I didn't think that they were out there." And I was only 24 and I'd given up hope. And anyway, I went back and I went to, Tony talks a lot about your 6 human needs: the need for certainty, variety, significance, love and connection, growth and contribution. And I was just trying to stay above ground in Southern California. So I went back working my jobs, but I knew those people were out there. And about 6 months later, I ended up moving in with my friend who invited me for Thanksgiving. And I walk in my room one night after coming back from work, and there's this guy's stuff in my room. And it turns out my roommate was renting a room to me that he was renting to someone else. And it was the cute guy from Thanksgiving who's the father of my kids now. Wow. But I went on the road and supported him. And then they asked me to come in-house and to corporate. And I worked in the production department, planning all the UPWs, ordering all the sod, setting up the rooms, doing all the stuff to set up for an event. And that's when the crew happened. And then how many years ago was it? It was 14 years ago. Tony and Sage asked me to take the family and move to Fiji and launch the new Life Mastery program. So over the past 14 years, For 2 years straight, we taught about 36 1-week-long seminars a year.
Wow.
So it was like Groundhog Day, but wonderful because we were meeting wonderful people like you guys. And then, I'm back. I leave actually on Tuesday to go teach a program again in Fiji. And it's pretty, but now I do it because I want to do it, not because I have to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think that's really for a stellar life. It's about, doing the things because you want to do them, not because you have to do them. If I look at, 3, 4, 5 years ago, I went through my divorce 6 years ago. If I were to look 6, 5, 4 years ago, I did stuff because I had to do it. Mm-hmm. But I actually even gave up some things because I knew I had to clean up my own backyard before I cleaned up the community. So I wanted to make sure I was 1,000% congruent, So I had some coaching clients that I'd worked with, and I told them, I said, look, I need to put everything on hold. And they're like, but, don't you need the money? And I'm like, yeah, but I need to make sure I'm not teaching the lesson I need to learn most. Wow. So that was a big stretch, Mm-hmm. But I think now it was the right thing to do, and I think when you're doing the right thing, then you don't have to worry about anything. So.
Wow. But isn't it true that sometimes you just, especially for people that start, you got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do. I look at my kids every day and I'm like, even just last night, I'm like, this keeps me hungry every day. I like watching my, being able to go last night to a dinner with my daughter and watching my son at his game and watching my other son video him and, being able to say yes to them, to do what they got to do. It's worth it. I am so glad that I have a great work ethic. I think if there's anything that I would say the most important thing you can teach your kids or yourself is to really establish a great work ethic. And get hungry. I think, I don't know. And I'm not to get hungry just for stuff or anything like that, but, to be able to give the way you want to give, to be able to, we just were at the St. Jude event, it's almost $2 million a day to run St. Jude Hospital. Wow. $2 million a day. And, I was at this gala that all of us, it's my 8th year being on the board. And we work all year long planning for that gala to raise money. Mm-hmm. That's the goal. And to see people, I'm like, look, guys, if you're going to give, now's your time to give, And I do the things I want to do so that I can give more, so that I can be more, so that I can, experience more, whatever that it is. Every time I go to Fiji, I take an extra suitcase. Mm-hmm. full of things that I know they can use. They just went through the worst cyclone ever. People lost everything.
That's horrible.
So, but it's beautiful because what they believe is they don't say poor us. They say, they say, we don't say, God, why us? They say, you know what? We realize the power of God. So just their belief about that, right? Powerful. A lot of people go, why me? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, this from Kabbalah, right? It's the 99%. It's what we can't see, hear, feel, or touch that is so powerful. Experiences that come together. I think that we just have to tap into more.
Right. And like you said, talking about Kabbalah, I was about to bring it up because it reminded me something that I just learned in my last class, which is tikkun, the fixing of the soul.
Yep.
Why do our soul come here? A lot of people feel a void because they have gifts and talents that are not manifested, and they go and they buy another car, and they go and they get a nice house, and they still feel emptiness because their gifts, they're not fulfilled. Yep. They're not manifesting what they're here to do.
Yep. So my tikkun was that I guess I'm a Scorpio, and so Scorpios are really good at organizing events. We're really good at putting things together. Like if you tell us to put together an event, we can create it in a minute. Wow. Right. So that was an easy thing for me to do. I mean, if someone said you had to throw a big party in 2 hours, I'd figure out how to do it and make it happen, not stress about it, right? Actually, I had to do that a couple of weeks ago. I didn't have to, but I chose to because a friend of mine, she was here in town and they were about to spend $15,000 on food. And I'm like, you don't have to spend $15,000 on food. We can cater that. We can do that for, $500 a day. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm leaving to go out of town to go to New York, but I set it up. And while I was in New York, I was arranging the food to be Postmate delivered but that's easy for me.
Wow.
And like I said, what's easier is not better. And I found out that my lesson is in Leo and I need to be out more in front, not for the ego, but for my correction. Right. So that was the big thing for me. I'm like, no, that's not me. That's, somebody else's job to do. I'll just organize everything behind the scenes. So I think I know that because you got to do the work, even when it's scary, and the work is scary.
Yeah. How did you do it when you first had to lead a 3-day seminar?
I think the biggest thing for me was I really believe that how you start your day is the most important thing that you can do, and I started to believe and live and making those rituals a must, right? So, I mean, I would say that I do my, I'd appreciate something in nature. I'd say today is going to be the best day of my life again. I'm loving, I'm honest, I'm caring, I'm full of faith, I'm God's girl, I'm kick-ass, may whatever comes through me serve the greater good. And I'd start filling myself up to give myself the confidence. I think a lot of us, we have to realize it just has to flow through us. When we try to push it, it's not going to happen. So I think that I just kind of gave it over to something bigger than myself and say, I need to remember that my intentions are good. I need to remember that my intentions are to serve, that this is not about me. This is about what the lesson and the messages that I need to help share. I'm the messenger, not the message, and all those type of things, and I do that every day. I look and if you could see all my stuff, I look and I think that, it's very important. Whatever you see first thing in the morning better inspire you, I'm right now as we're doing this call, I'm looking out over the golf course and seeing the birds and seeing my dogs outside. And, that inspires me. Wow. It's a beautiful day. And I maximize those resources. And to my right is this cute little painting that my daughter did that said, "Stay true," and pictures of my kids and, my little angel card that I pulled and making sure I have water around me. So I do all those things to fill myself up. And I think sometimes we just take those things for granted. The lady that had to sell us her home, she had to sell us her home because she couldn't walk up the steps. Wow. She had her 4th kid. And now, I guess she came by and they bought another house down the street. And she's like, wow, man, and now they bought another house. But I think she's like, wow, I just really took for granted the beauty that there was from this home, Right. We think it's just a home,
Yeah, we're about to get a new apartment, to rent a new place. And, we saw some really gorgeous apartments, but the view was so bad. I was like, I can't live here. I need to see some green. I need to see something open. It expands my soul when I get up in the morning and I see beauty.
I agree. For me, it's an absolute must. I would rather have something that's, that, like you said, I wake up, I'm like, thank you, God. I look out and I keep the curtains open, and I'm like, I'm up at 5 and I'm like, let's do it. And I look out, I'm like, God, it's a beautiful day. Thank you, God. Thank you. And that's how you got to start your day. You can try to push yourself all you want to make it happen, but you've got to inspire you.
Yeah.
I think that we're waiting for this inspiration, and you got to be the inspiration for yourself. How are you going to have any impact on anybody unless you inspire yourself? So, and that's what keeps me to, look, there's a lot of stuff I still need to work on. I need to really learn how to love to exercise when it's like 100 degrees outside and want to go outside.
That's hard.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I've got work to do too. I'm not saying that I'm so perfect, but I've definitely made certain things more of a priority by being, more savvy about some things. I've also, there's a lot of people that have been in my life who I've enabled some behavior, and I'm like, you know what? Nope. I've got to really look at what's most important to me in relationships, and the people that I'm with. So that's why we're friends, right? I mean, I have lots of people that want me to do something. Like, I want to be with people who I know they're really walking their talk. So.
Oh, I love that. And thank you.
It's true.
So do you have one morning ritual that you do every morning, or does it change every day?
No, I have a ritual that I do every morning. Yeah. So every morning I wake up and I say, today is going to be the best day of my life again. I go and I walk, I look at like all my stuff, and then I go into the bathroom and I have my manifestation board that really is more about who do I need to become? What parts of me do I need to access? I look there, I look at my 6-month, my 12-month results that I'm committed to. As I'm brushing my teeth and getting dressed, I'm doing all of those things during my net time, right? No extra time. I can be brushing my teeth and looking at my manifestation board and, thinking about what I need to do today to make those things happen. So I'm very much, I look in it, sure, it might look like a big craft store, and my poor husband, he's all my stuff everywhere. But you know what? It makes me feel good. It keeps me going. It keeps me in state. I take everything on the road. I don't just like leave it in my bathroom and, not take it with me. I have the traveling one, and I have pictures that my kids and my family that I take on the road with me.
I love that. I travel so much and I tend to forget because I have the vision board in my bedroom, but then when I travel, I never take it with me. And that's just a big aha moment. I should definitely do that. Yeah.
Or take a picture of it, put it on your phone, or make a traveling one. I just have it shrunk down. I laminate mine. So I just take a picture of it and, and then I make a small, I have them shrink it down at the store. Wow. So I love it. I mean, it's fun, it's fun. And, and every time, and here's the other thing. I always invite people to my home. And it drives my husband crazy, but I want them to know that I'm really living it and that I've got, crap going on too. Dogs barking, a 16-year-old dog that still has accidents in the home, and I'm still mopping it up, but I want them to know that I'm real, that's super important for me, is to make sure that, that people know, gosh, she's got drama too,
Right. Yeah, I remember you taught us a song, Life Mastery. Every little cell of my body is happy. Every little cell of my body is great. Did I say the right words?
Every little cell in my body is happy. Every little cell in my body is well. I'm so glad every little cell in my body is
happy and well.
I do that too. I mean, it's just about, making it part of your identity versus an excuse of why you don't have time to do it. And then my kids see me do it and they teach their friends to do it. And, I believe a great leader is a great duplicator, so if I can, teach people things that they can go home and teach others, then I've done my job. I think that's really what's important for all of us, is just to be our job should be to be a great duplicator, to leave a legacy that people will always, remember. Right. So, yeah, I guess that's my mission, for me. I look and I hear my son, who's Josh, who's, going to be 20. And, what do I teach in Life Mastery? I teach people the importance of pooping, and now he's got his hashtag on Facebook is "Let Josh help you poop." I don't think that he would have thought that was going to be his hashtag or anything, but, that's part of his identity now. He helps people, have a healthy life.
So for people that don't know, what is Life Mastery about?
So basically it's laying a strong foundation for your life, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and relationships. And Tony and Sage designed the program because we used to do a program in Fiji every year. Not Fiji, Hawaii. And the last time we did that program, we had about 3,500 people from around the world. But we were there during 9/11, and some of the speakers couldn't get in. And they were thinking, do we go on with the program or do we, just stop the program? And everybody's like, keep going with the program. And they brought certain speakers in via satellite. And some of the speakers were actually better via satellite than they were live. So Tony's like, I've got a resort in Fiji. I've got great content. And he created this 1 week long cleanse as the foundation. So we do colonics, we do wheatgrass. Tony sent us to the Ann Wigmore Institute, where we learned everything about wheatgrass and more. We learned all about rebounding. We learned all about the lymphatic system. We learned iridology. We learned everything. We were there with people that were truly, that was their last resort for a lot of those people. They were stage 3, stage 4 cancer, people with autoimmune disorders or whatever the challenges were. But it was so severe that was their last resort. And then he had us learn this information so that we would go back and teach it. And I already had some nutrition background. So yeah, that's how it started, but it's awesome. It's a great program. I say, when you get your body out of the way, your spirit can start to move through you again. Mm-hmm. And people just get so caught up in life that they forget, they're like unconscious. They're not mindful about decisions that they made or people that they hang around, or the reason I think so many people have the challenges that they do, they're not mindful. And one day they go, where the heck am I doing? What is going on? And I think what it does is it helps people, wake up. But the thing is, you got to stay awake because it's easy to fall back asleep, during, and get back on that wheel. So what my passion is helping people stay awake, honestly. And I think that's what your passion is too, is, by bringing in different guests, how do you keep them awake? Mm-hmm. Learn something new, take one distinction out of things, then you've done a good job.
Right. You achieved so many things in your life, more than many people will ever achieve, actually, already. How do you do all that with being a mom and traveling and doing programs for other people and your own programs and coaching people? How? 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 How?
Well, I wanted my kids to be the reason, not the excuse. Mm-hmm. And I hear so many people going, well, I can't do it, until my kids are this and that. I can't do it. And then when they get that way, then they go, oh, now I can't do it because of this or this and that. I'll never forget a friend of mine, we were planning a trip to Africa. We were going to go work in Malawi with the Spirituality for Kids program I think Asher was just maybe, I think she was maybe 9 months old. I think she was 9 months old. Yeah, she was 9 months old. And my friend was like, I can't do it because of this and that. And I just need to do it later. And I'm like, we need to go. Who's to know if these kids are even going to be around if we don't go? We could save someone's life. So, and I always make sure that when I do go away, that I make sure to let my kids know that they're going with me as well. That I share the stories about how I talk about them, about how proud I am of them. And so it's not like mommy's leaving us. It's like, oh, mommy's going to share how cool and how great her kids are, Mm-hmm. So I don't want I want my kids to that they look and they look and they know that I'm living my dream as well. But when I'm with them, I'm really, really with them. Mm-hmm. I'm not just, it's not just we're just here. We're with each other. We're present in each other's lives. And I wrote my first book when Joshua was just a couple months old. I mean, it was 20 years ago. And I remember, I won't use any names or whatever, but I remember that someone said, what are you doing writing a book? And I was just kind of like, whatever. Because 20 years ago, not your everyday person was writing a book. And I was like, I think it's a message that needs to be heard.
Wow. And
so I just started writing, and I just had this belief in my head that someone, a major publisher was going to pick it up. And I knew that if I just had a lot done, if I got the testimonials done, if I got the book laid out, if I, really went for it, then someone will pick it up. I do believe big time in manifestation. That's my passion is, boards. And I was like, this person was great testimonial on, this person's going to do this and this is that. And, last weekend, when the one people I asked her to do a testimonial for my book was Dr. William Sears, who's known as America's pediatrician. And I'll never forget, it was March 19th. And I remember sending Dr. Sears a copy of my book, the transcript. And I'm like, you helped me in so many ways about what to do to have a baby. I said, I'm going to write a book about how to be. And 2 days later, after I sent it to him, FedEx came back with a testimonial from the book.
Wow.
And here I am 20 years later, 20 years later, he's sitting at I invited him to the St. Jude event.
Wow.
He's sitting at the same table with me and tells me, he goes, Loren, did you know that your book is in my private library of favorite books? And I'm like, oh my gosh,
wow.
And I think it's just, putting that attention, but then you got to get off your ass and do something.
Right.
You got to go to work. You got to do the work. It's not just going to come to you if you don't do the work. So I like that. I like to know that, at the end of my life, I hope that it's an Irma Bombeck quote. It's like at the end of my life, I hope I slide into heaven and God will know that he used every ounce of talent that he gave me.
Wow.
Right.
Yes.
So I want to play full out, I want to live life. I mean, that's what fires me up. And I don't, and you know what, the hard times, oh my gosh, I think I think because of the hard times, I finally become the woman I wanted to be. As I think I shared with somebody else, is that I don't want, there's a book, it's called The Prayer of Jabez. And the first line of the Prayer of Jabez is, God bless me indeed. Meaning, we're here to be happy. We're not here to, be miserable in our lives. And then the second line, though, is, and expand my territory. That doesn't mean it's going to be all rosy and all fabulous. It's like, make me more so that I can handle more situations. Make me stronger so that I can deal with those things. And I don't know. I just,
Yeah, because the more you grow, the more the challenges grow with you. It never gets easier, right? It just gets bigger.
No, just different kinds of challenges, right? Just a different, it's like we were talking about something that, and not to, for any respect, disrespect for anybody who, is struggling, but, there are some things that when you start to make more money, you have rich man challenges, you know what I mean? So what can you do? I mean, it's a challenge. We have a rental, right? And this great rental, but now the city of in North Carolina, they want to ban, rentals, right? But we can still rent it out, but only a month at a time. So, but those are, thank goodness we can cover, the mortgage. So those are you would call, those are different kinds of challenges versus just having to pay your mortgage, right? Being able to own a second home and, dealing with a challenge that they want to shut VRBO down or Airbnb down. Okay, well, we can still rent it out and we can still pay our mortgages. But, a lot of people are having to deal with just being able to pay the mortgage.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm in the middle of writing my book. It's called Unleashing Your Inner Superhero. And the question, who am I? Even though I think the book is so far, I enjoy reading it. Other people do too. The question, who am I to write a book? Or who would even listen to me? Comes up for me a lot. I noticed.
Let it go.
Who will publish it?
Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. I think that honestly, I believe that everybody should write a book. I think that there's a story in all of us, in each of us, and that I remember when I was dating my husband. I met him at baggage claim. For anybody who's wonders, how you can meet somebody after. I met him when I was at the lowest of lowest points probably in my life, and it sucked. I mean, I'll be honest, you actually, when you met me, it was a very tough time when you met me.
Wow.
Probably one of the toughest times. If it was 5 years ago, that was pretty much one of the worst times in my life.
Well, you pull it together very well because I didn't see it.
But I remember, even though it was a hard time in my life, and we hadn't really made a commitment to each other, just dating, and girls were calling him or whatever. And I remember saying to myself, I said it to him. I go, dude, you don't get it. And he goes, what? I go, I'm a freaking catch. And he started laughing. I go, no. You don't get it. I'm the freaking catch of the century, Now, could I have said something like, oh my God, I've got 3 kids and no guy's going to want to be with me. And, I'm in my mid 40s and I just turned 50 in November. And honestly, I feel better at 50 than I did in my 20s, but could I be comparing myself to other people? And I think the biggest thing that'll steal your dreams is comparing yourself to others. Right. Mm-hmm. And instead of like, I've got a great story to be told, and so he laughed and I'm like, no, I am the freaking catch of the century. I go, and if you don't get it, that is totally cool. There's a whole line of guys that totally want to go out with me. And I didn't know that or if there was a case, but in my head, I finally had that confidence, even though things weren't perfect, even though I had more month at the end of the money, even though I was, whatever, that I was doing whatever that I could. But I really did at that moment start to know that I had something to share, and then I still believe I'm a freaking catch. Yeah. Right?
Yes, you are.
So for you as a superhero for your book, that's their crap. If people go, why are you writing about, or if you catch yourself when, do you have a pen with you right now?
I do.
Okay, great. So here's what you're going to do. So when you catch yourself saying, who am I to be writing this superhero book? Why me? What's my story? So grab your left hand. Mm-hmm. And are you left-handed or right-handed?
Right-handed.
Great. So with your right hand, grab your pen in your hand, and on your palm of your inside hand, write this, STOP. Stop. Right? So every time you feel like you're going to catch yourself saying that thing, why am I doing this? Stop. You know what? The reason I'm going to write this is because, there's a superhero that's waiting to be unleashed in all of us. Why am I doing this? Because I know that the superhero that got me through, the tough times is blah, blah, blah. I actually have this, I just put it on. I haven't worn it in a while. My son actually mentioned it yesterday. I have this really cool Tiffany silver, it looks like a Wonder Woman, one of her cuffs, like a Wonder Woman cuff.
I love it.
And I haven't worn it in a long time. And yesterday I pulled it out. It's funny because I'm wearing it right now.
I think I've seen you wearing that.
Right. And my son goes, I haven't seen you, wear that in a long time. I said, it's time for me to put on my Wonder Woman cuff and get busy, So yeah. Those things are great anchors for us to really take action. Right. So maybe you have something that you need to teach everybody about unleashing their, superhero. What is it? Is it, taking a towel and wrapping it around your neck and, making that your cape? I don't know. Right. But you don't know what it is. Right.
Yeah. The process that I teach is actually to create and visualize a personal superhero and then have a physical anchor like a bracelet.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yep. So I literally am wearing my Wonder Woman bracelet, my Tiffany cuff. And every time when my people on my, one of my businesses, anytime the ladies reach a certain level, they all get that, that bracelet. Mm-hmm. So for them to realize that they kicked ass, Yeah. Time to step into that superhero.
Right.
So.
What I love about you the most is how true and authentic and straightforward you are. It's hard to find in people. And you teach a lot about that when it comes to you helping women be more empowered or with brands or businesses. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So funny. Isn't that makes me smile because I remember just as a little girl, I was so not that. because I just held back. And now I'm like, this is me. One of my favorite quotes is, to be a person you're not is to waste the person you are. And I think that we're so busy trying to make everybody else happy that we end up making ourselves miserable. And I think for me, I just found like, this is me, take it or leave it. This is me. And I think there's that part of everybody that wants to just do it. But either their need for, external love. I think when I really, 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 really started to love myself, and as corny as it might sound, but when I really started to love myself, I didn't worry so much about what people were going to think, because they were going to think something of me anyway. I mean, they were going to make a judgment anyway. They were going to judge me anyway. So, but I know that when my intention is good, that I'm doing the right thing. When you're doing good business, you're doing the right thing. So I've seen so many women that they get so locked into their roles that they really forget who they are at their core. And it's our responsibility to help unleash that for each other. What you really see in them. So I think bringing the dance back, the beauty back. I mean, we are flow as women, and we need to bring that flow back to our life. That's what men love, is when they see flow. And
how do you manage to dance between the Loren that is super hardcore, go-getter, producer, with the Loren that is like sweet and soft and loving and flowy and feminine?
That's a great question. So I think there's it depends. One, I do like to dress feminine, right? So I have certain anchors for myself that remind me to stay feminine, if you would. So that's why I like lots of bracelets and the sound of bracelets, clicking together.
Yeah, that's something that I always, when I think about you, I actually hear your bracelets.
There you go. So that reminds me to kind of, I think of like a dancer, and I love the bracelets. I wear big hoops. It just, that for me, I'm not saying every woman needs to wear big hoops and wear bracelets, but for me, that those two things keep me. I also, you've probably seen that, the anchor that I have a heart with a peace sign in the middle. And that reminds me to, grateful heart, be grateful. And so those are kind of my anchors for myself to stay in flow. But then you see me with jeans and boots and whatever, black. I mean, that's just what I like that. So, but I also know when it's time to, if you were thinking about like goddesses, right? There's Athena, and she's the protector, and she's got to go to, she's got to make stuff happen. So I put on my Athena, but Athena's also very beautiful still with her armor, and she's still in flow. But then when my husband comes home, or when I'm with my husband, I'm all girl, I'm like, I turn into Venus. Right? Or when I'm in the bedroom, hopefully, Aphrodite comes out. So I know how to dance with my different goddesses, those different parts of me. But so many times women, bring home, Athena to the bedroom, or
it's only good in some cases.
In some cases. Yeah, exactly. But so I think knowing how to dance with that, and there's some times where I need to command a room, or there's sometimes where I just need to go into flow. I'm also known as the ocean of emotion. So I'll kick you in the butt, but I'll hug you at the same time. And what you see at an event is the same person you're going to see on, at my house. There are certain things. I mean, I think also setting boundaries is really important. I would say my relationship, my marriage for 18 years, which I'm very grateful for, my beautiful 3 amazing children. But I would definitely say I was, what would you call it? Passive aggressive, I didn't speak up. I didn't, certain things. I was so afraid that he wouldn't love me if I did certain things. So I never really spoke up. Whereas in my relationship now, I'm very current. I'm like, that was really not cool. I'm like, or you don't talk to me that way, or that was not okay. And we have that mutual respect with each other versus just kind of holding it in,
Right. Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was and I do that even with other things now. It created that safe space for me that it was okay to say that and be that way. And it was just it wasn't a challenge about my relationship. It was a challenge about me in my first relationship. I was so scared. I didn't have the confidence that I thought that I did. So I've really blossomed because of those tough times.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What are your 3 tips to living a stellar life?
3 tips. Be happy.
Mm-hmm.
I think just being happy is so important. Just being grateful for what you do have in your life. Be grateful for the good times, the bad times, the hard times. Be grateful for everything that's happened thus far. I think having a vision work and then making it happen. So I would say vision plus Goya equals manifestation. So have a vision, and then third, just think about somebody other than yourself. Think about who can you help and who can you serve, by maybe you deciding to have a stellar life or live a stellar life, who's going to be changed, whose life you're going to make better because you just made a decision to be that example for people, and people look at you and go, I want some of that. Mm-hmm. And when they look at that and they go, wow, that's what I want that. Be the change, as Gandhi would say.
I love it. Thank you so much. This is I'm enjoying speaking with you so much. It's so wonderful. I'm sure people will want more of what you have to offer. Where can they find you? I know you have a membership website.
We've got a lot of great things happening. I'm super excited. My son and I are launching a big campaign this month, actually, and it's his idea about, pretty much with launching this Courage to Raise a Gentleman. He wants to do a series of things that why he is the gentleman that he is, and so we're going to be doing some fun series like the F words to teach your kids. Are you your mother? We're going to be doing some sessions about, some webinars about that. So you can find out about that in the next couple of weeks on Loren, Loren, Slocum, SLOCUM.com. So thank you so much. I'm so excited for you guys. It's such a beautiful couple, and you have to come visit. And anybody else, just stay true to yourself.
I would love to.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks, hon.
Thank you so much. I deeply appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
And thank you so much, listeners. Be happy, have a vision, help others, and live a stellar life. I'll talk to you next time. Thank you for joining me on my mission to light people up and change lives around the world. I hope today's conversation inspires you to step up, go after the life of your dreams, and be who you want to be. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go to stellarlifepodcast.com for show notes, transcripts, and other cool stuff. And please subscribe, review, and help spread the word by sharing us on Facebook and Twitter. Have a lovely day, and I'll catch you on the next episode.